Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren, zur aktuellen Kammer.
In East Germany, the television audience saw only the Chinese government's version of events in Tiananmen. State television reported that a few student hooligans and known criminal elements had attacked the People's Liberation Army, leaving the army no choice but to defend itself.
Dieser Panzer bleibt in Sperrgittern hängen.
The East German government had always used television as a weapon in the Cold War, and its citizens had become expert in deciphering the truth behind state propaganda. This time, though, there was more than the usual distortion. The government enthusiastically supported the crackdown. The final shock came when news programs showed Egon Krenz, East Germany's powerful deputy chairman, visiting China shortly after the massacre. People quickly realized their government was sending them a warning.
Und von da an gab es immer diese Schwierigkeit, die uns nicht aus dem Kopf gegangen ist, von der chinesischen Lösung.
What really concerned us was the idea of what was called the Chinese solution. If there was trouble here, the government would use this Chinese solution. This became obvious because Krenz had expressly approved the behavior of the communist leadership in China and expressed a complete understanding of the problem they had faced.
Christian Führer was a dissident pastor, leading small protests at the Nikolai Church in Leipzig. In the months following the Tiananmen Square massacre, his Monday night protests got bigger as more and more citizens demanded the right to leave East Germany. Early in September 1989, the secret police and the army were ordered to suppress the Monday night protests. But the Western media were able to record these pictures, which were broadcast back into communist East Germany by West German television. Once again, the protesters were depending on the international TV cameras.
If the world knew what was going on, this was certainly my belief, they can't shoot. They can't shoot, they can't kill people in the middle of Europe when the world is watching. So it was in your own interest to get the news out.
October 7th, 1989 was the 40th anniversary of the founding of East Germany. Huge celebrations were planned. It was to be a show of strength, proving to the world and to the dissident movement at home that the Communist Party was unshakable. Gorbachev was the guest of honor. The East German government despised him for his social reform policies in Russia, but they knew he was immensely popular among East Germans. They hoped his presence would somehow convince the people that Russia still supported the government of Erich Honecker. But their plan backfired. As Gorbachev left the reviewing stand, hundreds of citizens spontaneously began chanting his name. Cries of "Gorby, save us" could be heard live on state television, which had been broadcasting the celebrations. The security police were completely caught by surprise and were unable to cut the sounds of the protesters.
Wegzuretuschieren war das ja nicht. Also der Atmosphärenton war schon da, aber...
Yes, it was impossible to edit out the sound. The commentary was spoken over the background sound, so it was impossible to cut it out completely. You could hear the cheers for Gorbachev. Finally, they did something, but the pictures were so obvious and the sound was never completely removed.
As he was leaving, Gorbachev tried to warn the East German leader about the dangers of continuing with his hard-line policy, but Honecker refused to listen. Immediately after the anniversary celebrations, demonstrations across the country intensified. The security forces were now being openly attacked by the protesters. The police could not stop the flood of news pictures beamed into the country from West German transmitters. Ordinary citizens were now joining seasoned dissidents in the streets. Television was showing that a revolution had begun.
Das haben doch die Leute jeden Abend gemacht. Sie haben jeden Abend übers Fernsehen die Flucht nach dem Westen
That's what the people were doing every evening. They were watching all of this on television.
Und das ist hier ungehindert.
And in their minds, they too were joining the demonstrators. They were escaping to freedom.
Dadurch wussten sie Bescheid darüber.
Hier an der Volkskammer.
We were demonstrating at the East German Parliament and people placed candles at the feet of the police. I was standing right there. When I came home, I saw that. Of course, I didn't recognize myself in the crowd, but I was enormously moved. At the demonstration, I was almost hesitant when I put my candle down. I was still very nervous. And later, when I saw all of this on television, I just cried.
Befreiend heulen.
Erhard Neubart, a major organizer in the East German dissident movement, was under constant surveillance by the Stasi, the secret police. When the Stasi surrounded his home preparing to arrest him, this amateur video was taken and rushed to West German television, which broadcast the pictures back into the country.
Schon nach einer Stunde kam das im westlichen Nachrichten.
An hour later, it was on the Western news, and that helped us. They did not dare storm the apartment. So we were always kind of protected by the Western press. And for that reason, I think, the fall revolution would have been inconceivable without the Western media.
On November 9th, 1989, a press conference was held in East Berlin. It was attended by foreign journalists and broadcast live throughout East Germany. In a hastily prepared statement, Günter Schabowski, a member of the Politburo, uttered the words that brought down the Berlin Wall.
Also doch ständig ausdrücken können alle Grenzübergangsstellen der DDR zur BRD bzw. zu Berlin-West erfolgen.
In fact, the East German government had no intention of tearing down the wall. Their plan was to allow only limited access to the West, but it was too late. East Germans had heard the news, and the despised symbol of the Cold War could no longer hold them back.
We were sitting with my friend in our room and doing something else. Didn't listen to the radio or anything. And suddenly there was this bang and the door just flew open. And this guy from next door rushed in and just shouted, "The wall is open, the wall is down, let's go!"
Aus uns heraus alleine haben wir es nicht geschafft. Auch die oppositionelle Bewegung in der
We alone did not bring it about. Even the opposition was not strong enough. I think that we could have accomplished what today is called a revolution. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But in any case, it was a new beginning, and the Western media played a large role in it. Thank God.
Gott sei Dank.
It's been another dramatic day of change here in Berlin. On this side, more holes punched through the wall.
The collapse of the Iron Curtain showed the power of television to penetrate ideological boundaries and quicken the pace of international events. It transformed the relationship between political leaders and the public. It was almost 100 years since the dawn of the cinematic age. Television's electronic battalions had now created a global arena. In the decade to come, the camera would celebrate the century of the moving image, and its promise seemed limitless.